Welcome to the CBS Eye on Money podcast. It is Tuesday, August 24th, and I'm like a hologram, a voice hologram. I'm appearing while I'm on vacation. Mark, how's our vacation going so far?
I'm sure yours is going pretty damn good. Mine's a little busy, but not too bad.
When are you officially taking that week off?
I honestly don't know. I don't know if I am. We'll just see how the schedule plays out.
Oh, brother. I said to Mark well ahead of time, I said, here's what my schedule is. I'm going to take these 2 weeks off. I'm going to sort of work part-time-ish this week. Like I'm going to try to really take this time off. You guys should book your vacation at the exact same time.
Well, we did do that. I just don't know if I'll be off. We are going away.
Well, why can't you be off? I don't understand. Why do we do all this work in advance?
Well, we recorded a lot of stuff in advance, but I still have to put it all together. We'll see if maybe I'll take like 2 or 3 days and just hammer everything out, but we'll see.
You should really take some time. And you need a break from my horrible voice, which is really haunting to you after all this time. So that's what you really need. Anyway, this is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. We do that by answering your financial questions, and we encourage you to come on the air with us. The way you can do that is you go to our website, jillonmoney.com, and you hit the contact button. You ask your question, give us some details, and say, I want to come on the air with you. And Mark does the rest, even if he's on vacation, evidently. So do that, or just send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. Now, because the folks at the big house, we'll call it the corporate headquarters, are very controlling, this is how I have to do this thing called a tease. So you ready? We're going to talk to somebody in New York City about her financial situation after this. Okay, you're back. It's Eye on Money. Sarcastic Jill is back. And how was that tease? I'm supposed to tell you a little bit more about the person. But what I can really tell you is Leah is on the line from New York City. Leah, is it as exciting to hear our voices as it is for us to hear your voice?
This is a big day for me. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Meanwhile, Leah and I are basically talking like blocks away from each other. We just realized. So we'll talk restaurants after the fact. But tell us what is on your mind and how we can help you out.
Sure. So I have a good problem, I think, which is that my husband and I are sitting on a lot of cash. We are investing every month. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But the problem is we just are not sure if and when we'll be in a position to buy. So I know that if we ever decide to buy, we don't want to put that money in the market. But since we live in New York City, it's unclear if we'll ever actually be able to do that, in which case it's possible we should be more aggressive in our investments.
So do you think you want to buy in New York City, or do you think you want to buy in the suburbs?
As of right now, I am refusing to leave the city. So,
oh, you hear that? That's Mark clapping for you. Mark has a real thing. He's a very anti-suburb. He is.
I grew up in the city, so my whole family is on the island of Manhattan.
That's fantastic. So you're how old?
I'm 37.
And husband is?
33.
Oh, nice. Well done.
Thank you.
That's very good. That's the way it's supposed to be, ladies and gentlemen, because those guys get old and sick and die, and you need to have a little age difference. Okay. So you're both working?
Yes.
And how much do you guys earn together?
So this is part of what's a little bit tricky. So we both have full-time jobs and then a number of side jobs. So the side job income is a little bit unpredictable. It took a hit during COVID. It looked like it was going to come back, but now with Delta, it's a little bit unclear. But last year, I think we came out at about 180.
Okay, that's great. And so you're renting now. How much is your rent currently?
Our rent, we lucked into a rent stabilized apartment. So so our rent is $36.50.
Okay, so let me just explain to everybody.
Only in New York is that a good deal.
I was just about to say. I presume it's a decent size because $36.50 is not like zero. So
that's more than my mortgage.
So it's a large 2-bedroom in a nice doorman building. We have our bedroom, and then our daughter's bedroom is half. It's big enough that we divided it half into a bedroom and half into an office. A nice sized living room and like a real kitchen. So
okay, so how old's the daughter?
She is about to be 7 months.
You had a baby in COVID.
I had a baby in COVID.
How was that? Was that all right? Was it scary?
It was okay. She's our first, so we have nothing to compare it to. It sort of was helpful that not everyone just came and invaded the hospital. And we got to keep the pregnancy a secret for a long time, which I wanted. So that part
Oh,
was good, but it was hard because we didn't have help when she was born. So that part was hard. But
despite all the family on the island of Manhattan.
well, right. You know, my parents were ready to beat down the door, but
Oh my God.
we were being very cautious. So.
Hysterical. Are you going to have more kids, you think?
Yeah, we hope to have 1 to 2 more.
Is he from New York also?
Yes, he's from one of the outer boroughs.
Okay. So if you're thinking about a larger dwelling, does it matter where you are in the city? In other words, could you go different parts of the city to find a deal? Or I don't know if you heard that call that we did with someone on our sister podcast about really feeling like you wanted to be close to the kids in their day school and all that. So do you have a preference on that?
Yeah, so I did hear that episode. We're very connected to our synagogue community, so we need to stay within walking distance of there, sort of from 2 miles in any direction. So we're pretty bound to Manhattan, and we're not married to buying. I mean, the other thing we've discussed is staying, renting, and then maybe one day, potentially with siblings or something, buying like a second home. So
Right.
buying a second home.
But would it be hard? I mean, you're in a 2-bedroom. You probably, if you had another kid, you could have the kid share the room, but a third would seem like a stretch, no?
Yes. So I grew up sharing a room. So I think that that's a normal thing for kids to do. But yeah, we wouldn't be able to stay in this apartment if we had a third.
How much money do you have in cash that's been building up for this potential purchase?
So just overall, not necessarily for this potential purchase, but we currently have about $200,000 in cash, which feels like a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot. What else do you have? What else is going on money-wise? You got some retirement assets?
Yes. So neither of us have 401ks at work, but we both max out our Roth IRAs. So mine has about 100,000 in it. And my husband, it took him longer. He was putting money in the Roth IRA, but not investing it. So we just took care of that. So he's probably at closer to 50 to 60 at this point.
Okay.
And they're both in target date funds with Fidelity.
Okay.
And then we have close to 200 in non-tax advantaged brokerage accounts.
Okay. So you mean 200 in cash, 200 in brokerage, and this 150-ish in retirement?
About that, yeah.
That's good.
We're frugal people.
That's great. I mean, let's really be honest here. How much do you think you'd have to spend to get into an apartment that you could see having 3 kids in?
I mean, it definitely wouldn't be below $1 million, I'm sure.
No.
Unless the market falls out. Probably, I've done, I do sometimes aspirational looking on Street Easy. I think I've seen things that who knows what they look like in real life because I've never gone to actually look at them. But I've seen things for like 1.1, 1.2, which feels like an insane amount of money.
What's funny is I just wrote down on a piece of paper, which I will prove to Mark. That
let me guess.
Yes.
My guess would be, I would have said 1.5, 1.6.
I said 1.3. I wrote down 1.3 because I think you could go. So not everyone needs to know exactly where you live, but you told me prior to coming on the air. So you could go a little bit north of that and probably get a good deal, a little bit, not a lot of it, but a little bit, right? And I think you can get 1.3. If you were to do 1.3, let's just say we could make this work right now. And I could come up with a game plan where you could get a mortgage and it's 1.3, but you really had to essentially get rid of all the cash and the brokerage account and do the move. How would you feel about that?
I would not feel good about that.
Okay.
I think being house rich and cash poor is a poor decision.
Okay. All right. So that's why I wanted to make sure this is the way we kind of test where you are. Are you willing to kind of limp along in this apartment for a while and keep stashing your money away and give yourself the opportunity to really look? Or do you really think like you're not going to do it? Like if I said to you, you got to spend $1.5 million, let's go. At what point do we think you could really pull the trigger? That's my question.
Yeah. So I mean, that's always been my question also. And the answer is I'm not totally sure. As you might be able to tell from our amount of savings, we're both fairly financially conservative. And so, I mean, right now we're very happy in this apartment. We don't feel any reason to leave here, but we hope to have more children. And so, it'll become more difficult. At the end of the day, I don't want to feel like we are all of a sudden living month to month because we bought something that was really a little bit more than we can afford.
Right. Well, I mean, look, when you buy, especially when you buy in the city, you would have a mortgage, and then, the mortgage is going to be whatever it is. And then
then
you
the
have the
maintenance.
maintenance, right? So, and for everyone listening who's not from New York, that maintenance is sort of usually includes your property tax. I think that you're looking at essentially, I think it's 5 to 6 grand a month is probably what you're going to be looking at. And you probably, just based on your saving, can afford that. I think you got to keep the money in cash until you can figure out what your next steps are. And I think those next steps are going to be determined by you figuring out how much your side hustle income comes back or not. Right? I mean, maybe what the idea is, Mark, are you okay with this? What if we sort of look at this as, let's take advantage of the fact that you're in this affordable apartment right now. I think you keep stashing away the money in both cash. I mean, what do you think is your free cash flow every month after you put money into your Roth IRAs? Every month, what are you saving in general?
So every month we're putting between 1,000 and 1,500 in the market. And then probably saving depends a little bit on the month, close to another 1,000 beyond that. Our daughter's starting daycare in 2 weeks. So that's going to, we found like the least expensive daycare in New York, but it's still insane.
What happened to all this family in New York? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, I think that's not a good option for us.
I'll send it down to Mark's in-laws. Mark, how do you think they'll feel? Okay, I'm just kidding.
So anyway, so daycare will be another expense, and she's going to become more expensive, at least over the next few years. Our assumption is before she becomes cheaper.
What do you think it's going to cost to do the whole private school?
So we're actually not totally committed to private school. Yeah, it's definitely, I feel like I don't know my kid yet. Like, she's just a baby. So I want to wait and see who she is. But we'll probably look at both public and private. But one of the private schools that we would be most likely to consider actually does percentage of income as their tuition.
Great.
So, and she has 16,000 in a 529. Even though you can use that for K-12, we don't want to use that for that. We want to try to send her to college as debt-free as possible.
So here's the question I have for you. Can you live with the fact that part of this money is going to stay in cash? Because I want to preserve the right to be able to make a different decision in a year or 2 years. Like, what if, because in some respects, how weird real estate is, which is, it can be that like somebody's like, oh my God, I have this great apartment. My friend's selling and moving to the burbs. And then you're like, oh, I want that apartment. So I think you should be prepared, ready to rock and roll, like not this second, but I think it's like, we're talking about within 3 years, because I think you'll probably have another kid, and then things are going to start to get a little hairy in that apartment. And so I think you're going to have to manage the cash better. Mark, are you cool with having that big fat cash account build up just in case they do buy a house? And the worst case scenario is you're like, you know what? We're staying here forever. That's it. We're like sardines. We love it. We love each other. We have, we're fine. And we can deploy that money, but I think you've got to preserve the optionality. Don't you think so, Mark?
I would probably put the focus more on cash than the brokerage account, because you already said if you have to spend all that money on the down payment, you'd be freaked out. So when that time comes, you want to have the down payment and you still want some cash left over.
Ooh.
So you feel like reduce what we're putting in the brokerage account every month?
Until you figure out what you're going to do with the house, I would.
Yeah.
I would build up the cash because it gives you want that comfort factor.
Unless you have really rich parents who are going to help you buy a place if you find one.
No, my parents, thankfully, are in good shape financially, but believe very strongly in financial independence for their children, which I think actually was but I think it was actually a big favor for us, because it meant that I knew from the time I was in high school that starting when I graduated from college, I was going to be on my own. So that was just sort of my mindset. And I think it actually served us very well that was the model.
Mark is right in that the more conservative approach is to build up your cash account. I'm okay with you splitting between the two. I really am. I mean, I get that you're going to lean, but you have to be comfortable with it, because whatever goes in that cash account, you have to presume is going out the door for a house.
Right.
Or that you might have to liquidate some of the brokerage account, which is fine too. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there really isn't a wrong decision about this. It's like what you're giving up is the potential increase in value of your asset base, right? In exchange for that sort of you're giving that up, you get flexibility, cash, right?
Right.
And you guys have to have a conversation with each other about how comfortable you are making that trade-off, right? Do you guys have wills?
Our will is in progress. We're working with our lawyer right now to finish that up. And my husband has $2 million in life insurance and I have 1.5.
That's great. All right. Anything else that we can do for you, Leah, except find you a very, very large apartment for $1 million?
No, if you could do that, we would make like the Jill and Mark honorary couch or something. We'd put up a little plaque in the apartment.
Mark, would you want a plaque or would you want a piece of furniture for you?
Maybe a plaque. I think a plaque.
A plaque
I thought
would be
I would
nice.
put the plaque above the furniture.
Oh, very good. Mark will have an easy chair because he's like a little old grandmother already. So he'll take a nice easy chair and get him a house coat too. He'll wear it in your house. Leah, we wish you the very best of luck and we thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right. If you would like to come on the air and maybe Mark and I can find you an apartment, give us a holler. Our website is jillonmoney.com and hit the contact button. You can always email us, askjill@jillonmoney.com. And we encourage you to follow us at Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Odyssey, whatever, wherever you find your podcasts. And if you're on our website, jillonmoney.com, you can also subscribe to our other podcast, conveniently called Jill on Money. Please try to do something nice for someone else today. We very much appreciate you listening to us. We are built on 3 main components here: curiosity, compassion, community. We'll talk to you on Thursday. Thanks for listening.